Hi everyone, welcome to the Soul of the War. My name is Alexis Branch, and today for our candidate spotlight, we will be interviewing Tim Adams. Welcome.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. It's such an honor.
Truly, honor is mine.
So we're going to just jump right into it. Just tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up, and what brought you to the state of Maryland?
Yeah, I am one of 6 kids. I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. My father was a police officer. My mom was a seamstress. So we grew up financially challenged. You know, when people have heard, and it's true, at one point, all 6 of us were sleeping in one bed as kids.
Wow.
You know, but my parents had a real good belief in education, and they also taught me about community.
Amen.
And so I grew up in New Orleans. I went to Xavier in New Orleans, proud HBCU graduate. Did a co-op as a chemist with U.S. Customs and realized I didn't want to be in the lab all my life, so I went to the University of New Orleans and got my MBA. I then headed out to the West Coast, did some finance, but got recruited by an African-American female by the name of Anise Eisler. And I always say her by her name because it was a changing point in my life. Because she took me under her wing and she taught me weapon systems. She taught me weapon systems as well as support equipment. And from there, I decided to start my own business. I was too young to know that I wasn't supposed to be able to go off and just start my own engineering firm.
How old were you at that time?
I was 28 when I first started looking at it.
Okay.
And then I started the business, started out of the trunk of my car.
Wow.
And here we are 32 years later, and it's one of the largest black-owned businesses in the nation.
Nice.
Got offices and people working out of about 23 different states and have teams all around the world at
What's
some
some
time.
advice for, the 21-year-old coming out of college? I feel like with my generation, there's such a push to you got to become like a millionaire and making over $100,000 straight out of college. And it's so much pressure, What advice can you give to someone that is looking to be as successful as you have been when it comes to owning your own business, being an entrepreneur at such a young age?
Well, I think the first thing is to remember it doesn't happen overnight. You know, some would say I'm a 32-year overnight success.
I like that.
But that's true. I mean, what would you have to do is you have to learn your craft. But I also recommend that you pursue your passion.
Amen.
You know, too many times people pursue money, and I think that's the wrong perspective. I think you have to pursue your passion, and you have to understand that every step along the way you have to give back. You know, and one of the things my mom taught me that I talk about a lot, and it's a saying that is really a part of the core of who I am, and that is, if you did something for somebody expecting a thank you, you did it for the wrong reason.
Amen.
So many times people do something, but they want limelight or hit by what they did, but really you should just do it because it's the right thing to do, and you should expect nothing in return except knowing that you did the right thing. And so that's how I live my life. And so I tell young people, and I mentor a lot of businesses and others, and I simply say, pursue your passion and make sure you learn your craft.
Amen.
You know, and again, give back. So
What so I mean you kind of took that my next question right already. But my next question was, I already know about, the work that you do when it comes to giving back, specifically here in Prince George's County when it comes to nonprofits and investing in campaigns you believe in. And I truly admire that, and thank you for that service here in the county. What would you say has put you in that direction to give back to people? Why is that so heavy on your heart to be a giver? And what advice can you give to someone who is starting to say, you were in the beginning of your business, right? How can someone stay on track when it comes to making sure that they continue to give back and not forgetting the people and the place that they came from?
I think that's about staying connected.
Okay.
I believe, and again, I say it as a man of faith, I think that's a big part of it.
Okay.
That you have to really believe that giving back is what you should do.
Amen.
You know, and I mean that sincerely from my core, from my soul. Because I think that's one of the things we can do too in the comptroller's office, is really enhance and increase even the numbers, particularly from our HBCUs, candidly, doing internships.
Yes.
You know, and being able to get that feel. I'm one who really believes in co-ops and internship because that changed my life.
Yeah.
Because had I not had an opportunity to do that, I may still be in a lab somewhere. You know, because I just didn't know anything different. I didn't know that that's what I wanted to do.
Awesome.
So it makes a difference in your life.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you just speaking on that is going to touch so many young people who are trying to figure out, you know, they jump into one degree and then jump into, you know, something totally different. And you made it clear that it's okay to want to do that change.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
And our young people have to be willing to take risk.
Amen. Yeah.
And the biggest risk you take is on yourself. Just
like
trusting yourself. Pray on it, again, in faith. But anyway, look at it. You know, there are three things I talk about in business that I say, and I've talked about this before, but it's something people who know me will be able to do. I say, you know, every day I pray for the wisdom of Solomon and the patience of Job.
Whew.
But
word.
let me tell you how that transformed. Because when it comes to business, I talk about being prudent, being patient, but also being proactive. So being prudent goes back to that wisdom of Solomon. And making good choices, making good decisions, thinking about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Being patient. You know, that patience of Job, but also understanding that things don't happen overnight. That too many of our young people in particular want that immediate success and all.
Absolutely.
But it takes time.
Yeah.
You know, many of them haven't seen, some of us older generation, and I'll put that, doing the grind.
Yeah.
Because we were grinding, we were working hard. So to see that, and then when I talk about being proactive, is you've got to be able to, just like Christ took himself, you know, Christ didn't just wait there. He went out on the road. He went out with the disciples. He went out. He was proactive. But we need to be proactive too, because if you see yourself in a situation that isn't right, or where you're uncomfortable, you have to be proactive and take yourself out of it. And that means business, that means your life, relationships, whatever it is, be proactive. So that's my thing. I always say, be prudent, be patient, but be proactive.
Amen.
And that helps you through your whole life.
Fall down 8 times, get up 10.
There you go.
Well, with you being such a successful businessman, what made you get into politics? I mean, you're already doing so well for yourself in the business realm. What kind of made you want to be an elected official?
I think a part of it comes from that give back. You know, I've been so blessed in my life, and I talk about that. Now, some people question, how can I say how blessed I am when I'm in a chair? I had an accident. I ended up a paraplegic. But I talk about my faith, and I say to people, well, just think of it this way. You know, I thought I understood what it was for those who were disabled and all.
Yeah.
I thought I knew, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that. But from a faith standpoint, it also goes to I walk by faith and not by sight now.
Amen. Amen.
You know, but I also know that one of the things that we really have to make happen, and that's in all aspects, and that goes with the comptroller's office and everything we do, is that we can't do things to the letter of the law. We have to do things to the spirit of the law. You know, just like being disabled, just like things that are supposed to be accessible. Someone may check a box and say it is, but if someone who's disabled still can't utilize that facility and still can't walk out there with their own dignity, then you may have done it to the letter of the law, but you missed the spirit of the law. You missed the intent.
With you being paraplegic, have you done any type of advocacy for people, you know, that are paraplegic, specifically in our schools? I know that they have a couple of things that they have not followed up on with the ADA when it comes to, accessibility and stuff.
And I've talked with some of the schools, and I've been engaged with the school board and some things, even with some of our schools, making them better and all of that. But to go back to that, understand, I've really worked in that area too and helped. I was approached by the Justice Department, the Civil Rights Division, and I went out and gave speeches,
Nice.
to the disabled community. What I was trying to do was bring the two together. There were sometimes conflicts between the business world and the disabled community and not being accessible and other things. And so I saw it from both sides, as a businessman, but also as a paraplegic, as someone who's in the disabled community. And so I was able to bring people together and talk about it, because getting them to understand that there is a lot of buying power in the disabled community, but it's about just going back to the spirit of the law and not the letter of the law.
Absolutely.
And understanding and help people with their dignity. And so I was able to do that. I was able to help with the rewrite of the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Wow.
I was honored to be able to be brought in and go through the process with some of the people with the Department of Justice and all years back. So I've been excited about that. I love talking to our young people who are disabled, because they get to see me and they get to understand there are no limitations. And so it's a positive thing. It's just like I am unapologetically black.
Amen.
And there's nothing wrong with being black. There's nothing wrong with knowing and understanding that our children need to see us, just like yourself. They need to see you. They need to see it to believe it sometime. And that's okay. We're not trying to take anything from anyone else. But we go back and we know that when you start off with the bill, with the Constitution, and it says we the people. Well, the problem is we weren't considered part of the we early on. And we're fighting for that we part now.
We still are fighting
still
for
are.
that we. Absolutely.
And so that's that challenge.
Yeah.
And that's why when we going back to the original, that's why I'm running for comptroller. See, a lot of people don't understand what the comptroller does. Some people see him just as the tax collector, but there's so much more to it.
Can you explain to us what does the comptroller do in the simplest form that a second grader could understand?
Number one, he's the tax collector.
Okay.
But that also means that's that person who should be holding people accountable, that everybody pays their fair share. So that's about fiscal accountability. People don't understand that by the Constitution, the comptroller is the chief fiscal officer. He's the one who decides how much money we can borrow, makes the board of estimate. We estimate how much money we have to spend, But also, more importantly, the comptroller sits on what we call the Board of Public Works. And that's made of the governor, comprised of the governor, the treasurer, and the comptroller. Now, the governor usually is responsible to the party who elects him and that kind of thing. The treasurer is picked and elected by the General Assembly. The comptroller is truly that independent swing vote whose focus is really on just what's best for the people. And that's what I'm looking to do, because on that Board of Public Works, people don't know that every major contract that's awarded in the state of Maryland has to be voted on by the Board of Public Works.
What are some of
Those
the ideas
three.
that you have, though? What are some of the ideas you
Well,
have
the
for
one
the
thing
board?
I have for the Board of Public Works is to bring the knowledge I have. Understand, I've worked with contracts for over 30 years. I understand that right now we got way too many sole source contracts. Going to what a
What
lot
does
of
that
people.
mean, sole source contract?
That means that they're not competed. People
Okay.
say that, we just need to go to this one company
Because they're
and
the
give them all
cheapest.
the money. Well, no, just because they say they're the only ones who can do it.
Wow.
And so we choose to give it to them. There are also what we have retroactive contracts. And that's contracts where the different agencies say, we had to do it in a hurry. We already awarded this contract before it even gets to the Board of Public Works. Well, the problem with that is we need to have more competition. And so we've got to stop all these sole source contracts. We've got to stop all these retroactive contracts. The other thing is that we get way too many waivers, and that is where somebody can say, we have an MBE program in the state that where women and people of color and small businesses should be a part of the process of awarding contracts, and usually are look at getting a percentage of the contracts and that kind of thing. Well, we have all these waivers coming in saying they can't find us. Somehow, minority businesses don't exist, or they can't do that, or they get waivers and do that. And I think we need to have someone who can advocate and truly make a change. I've worked with contracts. I've seen all the games played. I've seen them say that people like me don't exist. And we know we do. And so that's one of the things that the Board of Public Works can really make a difference at, is advocating for businesses such as small businesses, minority businesses and all, and making sure that they are given an opportunity. And if they say they can't find us, I'm going to advocate ahead of time because we know where they are, and we'll make sure. And that's huge because that's the real key to this. Because you are able to create generational wealth.
Amen. Amen.
You know, and that's what it's about. It's about not just about me. It's about my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. And that's how we all should feel.
And fighting for that we that you
Yeah.
spoke about earlier.
And that's it.
It makes it a lot easier when a lot of us are sitting at the table.
Yes.
So,
And that's the key. And we have not. And people don't understand that in the history of the state of Maryland, though we've had a couple of lieutenant governors, and congratulations to them, who ran on the ticket with the governor, independently, we have never had a person of color elected statewide
and you know,
in the history.
you might not agree with what I have to say about this, but what I will say is that I think a lot of times we get used as that rubber stamp to get the person that is running for that higher role across the board, across the suite.
That's right.
And I think that is very unfortunate. I think it's very
Yes.
unfortunate. And I agree. I think that we need to have more of a seat at the table and have that courage and let
That's
people
what
to
it is.
know that we are here, we're
Yeah.
present, and thank you for that.
And if I could add to that, that's one of the things that I'm faced with right now. So many people have run to someone else to support them. And my question is, who is best in a position, particularly for people who look like us, to serve our needs?
Yeah.
How is it someone else who has never had the struggle, has never had to fight through all of these issues with contracts, doesn't understand that, or supposed to be the one who can solve our issues, who can solve the welfare? I don't think that's true. I don't think that's honest.
Yes.
And I think that maybe, and people, I just speak the truth. And I think that what people don't understand is that may be self-serving to some, that may meet their political ambitions. But what about the people?
Yeah. Do you plan on when it comes to these contracts with these, Black-owned businesses, do you plan on getting I guess you could say a board together or hiring a
Yes.
work group or
Yes.
to actually help find these businesses
Yeah,
so
actually-
that excuse is no longer on the table?
Yeah, because actually what I wanted to do is start open dialogue and have a special advisory group comprised of several different minority in particular organizations, but also MBE organizations that can help these agencies find, since they say they can't, where we are. And
Absolutely.
but you've got to be an advocate. And the one thing I will say is, if you come before me on the Board of Public Works with something that doesn't include MBE participation, or if you say you're going to give MBE participation and don't, then there need to be some consequence to that.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you've got to have the heart to stand up and say no.
Yeah.
If it comes before me as sole source, if you don't have any MBE, you got to be able to vote and say no. Take it back. You often hear, oh, it's going to take so long. You should have thought of that before you brought it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Question about, again, back to what the role of the comptroller is, right? So can you give me more of an understanding of the title, the state's regulator for the state's motor fuel industries?
Yes,
so what
I
does that-
had a
what does that
lot
mean?
of fun with that.
Okay.
Being someone, as I say, a chemist, did that, I went out to the lab. And that was really exciting. What people don't understand is the comptroller office, and I'm going to try and oversimplify it, but it does. They check to make sure what you pay for at the gas pump is what you get.
Okay.
If something says it's premium, high octane, they test that to make sure that gas they randomly test is actually at a high octane. If you're saying you're buying, regular gas, then That's the octane you get. And so they're making sure that you're getting what you pay for at the pumps. They're also making sure that there aren't blends and mixes and that it's not. So, and it's really good because they have a lab that's set up and they do all these random samples that they go through. And they go through and they test all that. And I've been to the lab. And we had a great time. They had to drag me out because seeing some of the increases in the technology, I really just some of the wet chemical analysis as well as the machine analysis that they were doing on that. It was exciting. But it's good to know that they're there,
Yeah.
to know that they're really regulating that and making sure of that. You know, it goes the same way on how they sell diesel fuel and other things. So it's a good thing.
That's really cool that you kind of have that chemistry background and able to really, they are not expecting that.
Yeah, we went in there, and I have to admit, we had a great time. They dragged me out because they were so happy in the lab. Had somebody who could talk the talk. I was asking about the gas chronometers, just different machines and how they've come a long way and all that, but it was a good time. But that just goes to show that one of the things that I know that some have a difference of opinion on, but I believe that, you know, alcohol and tobacco regulation, that used to be under the comptroller's office.
It's no longer under the comptroller.
No, they really, and when you ask people why, they really just got into a political tug of war.
Okay.
You know, and they removed it from him. Huh?
You think it should be?
I think it should be.
Okay. Would you advocate for that?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
And a part of it too is that we have this bad habit of trying to fix things that aren't broken.
Yeah.
You know, we see that with some folks who are saying, "Oh, we have to fix, you know, voter fraud.
Yeah.
You know, we got to cut back and do all these things." And no, there is no massive voter fraud. So it was the same thing on pulling that back and people talking about, you know, you can't regulate and tax at the same time. I think that the people who have worked in the comptroller's office are respected nationally for their ability to do it. And I think to insinuate that somehow they're going to do something corrupt is wrong. I think you impugn people's integrity that way. So me and my opponents have a different view on that. And I believe they've done a great job of it. And again, nationally, they've been recognized for it. And I think it should go back. And I think it started with a political fight. And we've got to start doing things based on politics and do what's best for the people.
Amen.
We have this wealth gap. How do we fix that? And I believe it's through giving people the opportunity. People want a hand up, not a handout. And we've got to understand, those of us who have fought that fight and continue. I have helped build businesses all across this country for people who look like us. And you've got to understand that. And we've got to take that knowledge and help, as you talk about our young people, help them to build the businesses, help them to understand how to build, how to do joint ventures, how to build the capacity, how to do all of those things. Those are things I'm currently doing now. This is something I'm ready to do day one.
I would love that. I would love to see a program like that when it comes to teaching young minority individuals how to start a business.
Yes.
Coming from the comptroller's office, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be.
awesome.
And working with people throughout the state to make that happen. I mean, it's just like making sure that we get financial literacy.
Yes.
I was so proud of the school board
Yes,
here
yes.
when it said, okay, our kids need to learn financial literacy before they graduate.
Yes.
And that's so important.
I wish that I was still in Prince George's County Schools so I could have gotten that financial literacy because I just turned 24 and I'm still learning everything I need to know when it comes to my taxes. So 100%. Thank you for that.
And that's the other part about the comptroller's office. We've got to do a greater job of outreach to teaching people
Yes.
about what's going on, the comptroller's office, and not get caught up in all of these other things, but focus on the comptroller's office. Focus on that purpose that we have and making sure that our lives are better from there. And being that swing vote that honestly, truly just does what's best for the people.
Amen.
You know?
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I do kind of want to swing back into family life, right?
Okay.
You are married to a phenomenal Black woman, attorney, a huge judge here. What is house life like? Like, both of you are extremely successful in your careers. You grind when you were younger, and you both were able to find each other and become successful together. So how is your home life like?
Well, I try to object, but then I'm overruled at home. So that's how it goes. You know what? I was very, very blessed to find and have my true soulmate. You know,
Amen.
I believe God has a plan, and we just got to listen. For those who don't know, my wife, how I ended up back here is because my wife said, "You need to move back here."
Aw.
You know, and I moved my corporate headquarters from California back here, and it was the greatest decision I ever made.
Aw.
You know, and so we have had a wonderful life. You know, my wife, as you know, is the administrative and chief judge for the 7th Judicial Circuit. But she's very, very humble about that.
So what will be your next move? Say, God forbid you don't win this race. What will be your next move?
To go back to just helping my community.
Okay.
You know, go back to the great, wonderful life that God has blessed me with, and continue to help.
Awesome. What would you say is like that verse that kind of gets you through those tough times?
Oh, I think this is going to be a little strange to you, but in my life right now, it's, and Jesus wept.
Amen. Can you explain?
Yeah. You know, last year my daughter died.
I am so sorry.
My eldest daughter, Tiara, was graduating from Bowie State, and right before graduation, she passed away.
I am
But
so
she
sorry.
left us with a beautiful 1-year-old then, but now he's 2, Nehemiah. And so, you know, that's a part of the motivation I have. I look into the eyes, as you hear me quoted saying this, as I look into the eyes of that beautiful little brown baby boy, I know how important it is to make sure that I try and leave a world, in this state in particular, in a better place, so that he can meet his full potential, that he and those like him can get a fair chance and all. And when I say Jesus wept, sometimes it comes over me. But, you know, it's okay to cry. It's okay as we go through these dark times and on occasion, it's okay to cry because Jesus wept.
Amen. Sorry, I'm getting emotional myself. That was,
But
I think that needed to be said, and especially coming from a black man, right?
Yeah.
I feel like our black men are so afraid to show emotion. They feel like they have no one to speak to a lot of the times, and they don't want to come off as weak. So I think that you saying that is going to touch so many black men's lives.
I think what you understand and remember from that is, as I tell people when they see me cry, I say, understand, that's not weakness, that's passion.
Amen. Amen.
You know, that's what that is.
Amen. I had so many questions here planned for you, but I really enjoyed our conversation.
Same.
And a couple more questions, then we're going to wrap up. With you being paraplegic, what has been some of the challenges that you have faced when running for office and becoming an elected official? How have you overcome those challenges, and what are some of the challenges you face?
I think first and foremost, it's about being honest as I talk about that transparency and talking about those issues. You know, I've faced those who have used it against me. I've had where people would hold debates or conferences and other things and then not be accessible. And so I couldn't be there. I've been
Wow.
at forums where everyone else is on the stage with their microphones up there, and they sit me on the floor next to the stage with a mic. You know, it's all those kind of things. But you just push through that. You know, and that's one of the things. When I became mayor of the city thought that they really had a good, and they tried hard to make it accessible. But I went around through the city, and I really appreciate the city staff, and all. We went to almost all of the facilities and looked at them and saw which ones were actually accessible and which ones weren't. You know, the first year I was here, we were going to have the Christmas, and it was at the mansion, and they were saying, okay, we don't believe you can get in there, so what we'll do is we'll have it here, and then we'll have you sit outside, and then you can greet everybody when they go in, because they got to go up the stairs and that kind of thing. But my point was, it wasn't about me. It was about, what about our elderly? What about our disabled kids? And we moved it over to City Hall. And we had a great time. And now we're going through modifications to make sure that Bel-Air Ranch, that it's accessible to everyone. Yes. And that whatever we do, that we went through all the parks and the senior center and all of these places. We put in all these accessible doors now at City Hall and all of those things. So a part of it is about speaking out. It's about taking the time to go and make the change. Because again, a lot of times people just don't know.
Yes.
They go by the letter of the law, but don't understand that spirit of the law. Because again, if it's not accessible, it can impact one's dignity.
Yes.
And I know that there are those who intentionally do some of the things they do, but that's okay. That's something they have to deal with.
So inspiring. So inspiring, because as I don't know if I could have pushed through that. And I'm just being honest, it just shows me your strength, and like, wow. Thank you.
I've been blessed.
Yeah. I mean, I am just, thank you for your advocacy surrounding that, because these are issues that, as a lifelong person that has lived in the state of Maryland their entire life, I did not know that some of these things happen, and that some of these buildings weren't even accessible to people with disabilities. And we all pay taxpayer dollars here. Every building should be accessible.
Yeah, they should, and that's the fight we'll keep fighting.
So last two questions. So when it comes to you taking on that role as comptroller, what is do you have plans for when it comes to hiring? Are you planning on coming in with your own administration? Do you want to continue to have the people that are there working there? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think first and foremost, I think whenever you take over a position like that, you need to really give people an opportunity and see who's there and what they're doing and all of that. I don't think that one should just rush in and do anything hastily. I think you need to evaluate and see who's there. Do I believe that there are opportunities for other people there? Of course.
Okay.
There are going to be those who are going to probably choose to move on. And so you have to look at making sure that you have some extremely talented people ready to step in. But let me just say, from all that I have seen, the personnel at the comptroller's office are very competent.
Nice.
They've set the bar very high already. They have.
Nice.
So.
And I guess we can wrap up with this question. Where can people go to find out? Well, no, sorry, back up. Leaving from this interview, if you had 3 things you want people to remember about you from this interview, what would it be?
Now that's a tough question. I think they should understand that I am in this for those coming behind me.
Okay.
This isn't about me, it's about we. This isn't about it's about us. And that's the real key. It's about creating an opportunity, I guess, number 2, for financial wealth. And when I say wealth, I'm talking about generational wealth for the businesses coming behind us. Because when you create that wealth, you create jobs, you create opportunities. And so that's really important too. And then I think last but not least is what I want them to remember about me is I am doing this simply to serve the people. This isn't about me. This is really about being a good public servant. And I have no shame whatsoever in saying, and it's about being a man of God.
Thank you.
Because we can't hide from that.
Thank you. I think you're the only candidate in all of my research in the comptroller that has spoke on generational wealth as being an important thing. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. And last but not least, where can people go? I think you should tell them about your website because your website is amazing. Tell them to go check that out. Where can they find you at?
Again, please go to timadams.org, and you can find out a lot more about me and what we hope to accomplish. And it's an opportunity for you as well to let me know what your thoughts are, because that's important too.
Thank you for everything. I
And
genuinely
thank you for
appreciate
having me.
it.
And thank you for doing this,
Absolutely.
where people can come and be themselves and really give an honest response to what their beliefs are and what they hope to accomplish.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Adams. Thank you. And you can find out all this information about Mr. Adams on our website. We'll have a link to his website next to his video after being posted, so you can check out his website, check out his story. And thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope to see you next week for our next Candidate Spotlight. Bye.
Goodbye.